Hello and welcome to the COO's Corner podcast, the podcast exploring success factors in the world of business operations. My name is Tamara Nelson, your host and a specialist in the area of operational resilience. And today we are here to discuss the brain, productivity, and peak performance, things that are very dear to my heart. And if you have been listening to previous episodes of this podcast, you will know that I have a firm belief in people and that people are the core. And operations is like the heart of the business. But guess what? The mind controls it all. So whether it's individually or collectively, we can't function efficiently or effectively without it. Quoting the words of Omozua, our guest today, we all have the potential, but this does not mean we have the competence and the skills to enable us to thrive well in life and in our relationships. To have a mindset advantage and growth mindset can only start when one knows how to actively leverage the power and gift of our greatest asset, the brain. So in today's episode, we'll be discussing our greatest asset, the brain, and how we can improve our agility, performance, and communication and boost our success and leadership in today's world. So, Omozua Isiramen, did I have that correctly? She is a high-performance brain and neuro agility trainer and executive neuroscience leadership coach. Wow. Who operates internationally and uses emotional agility and neuroscience-based approach to empower and prepare clients' hearts, heads to take the journey from where they are to where they need to be, bravely accessing and optimizing their limitless brain potential. She has over 20 years experience and in training people and developing them with our professionals, entrepreneurs, teams, and organizations. Definitely the person to talk to. She's the director of CWO Solutions, which provides executive coaching and consulting services. And she's the co-founder of the Systemic Neuroscience Counseling Group for Leadership and Business, and is the sole provider of EI and neuroagility profiles in Germany. I was trying to pronounce the word.
Benelux and in Germany.
Welcome, Omozua.
Thank you so much. I feel so honored to be here today, Tamara. Really, absolutely feel honored.
The pleasure is all ours. I am happy to really be able to have this discussion with you. And we have been connections for a while. And, I've been following your work and supporting and admiring your work. And, I was saying it's so funny how through just reading your words, how you feel like you know the person for eons. And so, this is the first time we're actually getting to have a conversation and to talk. So you're getting it live, real, and direct.
Yeah.
So, Omozua, I think that this pandemic has accelerated everything to do with the mind, both good and bad.
Well,
Right?
yeah, I like that you put both good and bad.
Yes. Right. So, we have gotten more interest, understanding about what's happening, in our minds. Share with us what is the whole neuro agility, that whole realm, and what is the impact that it can have on our lives and our businesses.
Yeah. So when I talk about neuro agility, it is literally the ability to think, to learn, to process information with ease, with speed, with flexibility. And it helps people to adapt, adjust, learn new skills quickly, unlearn unwanted behavior, or, sort of get rid of those habits that do not serve you anymore, and to be flexible in moving across ideas and understandings in such a way that You are able to maximize the potential learning of a given experience.
Mm.
And the reason why this is so important is because our agility is one of the most sustainable ingredients that each one of us has. It's needed in the future to safeguard us, to safeguard organizations and people's future progress. We live in a world today where everything is fast, it's very condensed with information, and you need to be able, somebody said, I think Andre Vermeulen, who created the neuroagility,
Mhm.
he said, you can't wait for the world to happen to you. You need to happen to the world.
Wow.
We can each sit here and say, well, the company didn't do something for me, or nothing is happening. It's I am the way I am because the world is the way it is. That's one perspective to see it.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
what about the other perspective where people buy a car and
mhm,
they clean it and they take care of it and they look at it and they know
mhm.
everything that it does, or they buy a mobile phone? I feel like, why don't we check that one big power engine that we each possess, which is the brain, and really more and more understand that we are not victims of what it's doing as it keeps us alive, but
Ah,
rather
right.
we need
Because
to.
yes, when you were talking a while ago, that's the thought that came up in my head, being caught in a spiral of victim mode, and we don't want that. But we walk around with it.
Yeah,
Oh, we have it with us all the time, but
but
you
don't know
still
how to use it.
don't know how to. How do we tap into that, Omozua?
Yes. I think that it all starts with this brain awareness. When I have a training and it's sort of a leadership workshop, and I welcome everybody, and then I bring out my brain and I say, "Hello, everybody. Good to see you. We are now going to talk about the brain." I get I get a reaction which is, "Hello, hello. Is this the right workshop? Because I signed up for a leadership workshop, and I don't know why we're talking about the brain." And how do we tap into it? We need to become aware of it. If you're a leader, if you're somebody that in any manner relates with other people,
Mhm.
not only professionally, but
Right.
personally, you understand that there are thoughts, there are decisions that you make, there
Yes.
are conversations that you have to have. There are some conversations you would rather just, get away from.
Mhm.
What drives that? When you like something, when you don't like something, when you say, look, this is risky, but I'm going to go for it. This is a goal I'm going to set for myself no matter what. What drives that? We are always making decisions. We are negotiating. We are comparing. We are figuring out one thing or the other. So unless we understand that, we need to understand what is going on in our greatest asset, that engine, that it's right there.
So what I'm hearing is that need for awareness and that
Awareness.
presence of mind to really be to see that, okay, I am tapping into my brain now. How am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And how can I do this?
Why? That's
Yes.
the powerful word, Tama. The
Yes.
why. Because why is, if I'm stressed, if I'm leading someone, if I'm in a feedback session with someone, if I need to make a decision and I need to do it quickly, if I have to, um, you know, adapt to some change, unexpected, like, I don't know, 2020, March. Oh, what's this? We all had to adapt. We all had to change. We all had to
Yeah.
say, okay, what do I do next? It does take understanding. If I'm stressed, that's the brain in overwhelm. What's going on? What can I do to calm myself down? If I need to be creative, what
Mhm.
state do I need to be in? If I'm
Mhm.
giving feedback and the other person is being defensive, not to take it personally, but to understand that the person's brain is in a defensive mode. And that's what the
Right.
brain does.
Right.
Survival by all means possible. Even what seems like odd behavior, like being defensive, is the brain keeping you alive because it detects
Protecting you.
threat or danger.
So it's a protection mechanism. So
Exactly.
so when you two questions came to mind when I heard you speak. Is this for everybody? And and also, are there some people where this won't work for? And when you detect those reactions, what kind of conversations do you have with yourself so that you don't go into the space that the other person is in, when they have taken that defensive move, so you can diffuse that situation?
Yeah. So I like the question, the first one, which was, is this for everybody? Now, I believe that we each have a brain. Yeah, we each have a brain. So I'm just gonna go by, yes, if you have a brain, and I'm not talking now of somebody who has brain damage, who's had an accident, no, I'm talking of if you don't have any medical challenge. Yes, we have a brain and we are able to figure out. I mean, when you're stressed, when you sit down and you get really creative and you're just taking down notes because you're in a creative mode. Yeah, that's wonderful. And you do know that when you're stressed, the creativity is just not possible. Just like if you are in fear, creativity is not possible.
Mm.
If you are exhausted, you're exhausted, and try to do something that is really demanding when you're exhausted. You know that. So that already shows us that you can actually note what state you are in and what is possible in whatever state. And so like, wow, if you're really inspired by something, that's why we say, okay, when you set a goal, it should inspire you. It should be emotive because that's when you see that you're really going to dig in, you're going to take action. You know what that feels like. So each one of us has that. And each one of us has to be agile, meaning, like as I said earlier, you have to be able to relearn. You have to be able to multi-skill. And I'm not talking about multitasking. The
Asking.
brain doesn't multitask per se. What it does is it switches. It switches between tasks because the PFC, the prefrontal cortex,
Cortex.
just goes, I'm sorry, that's too much right now. Get off the stage.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
get off the stage. So we do know that. And how, so everybody has it, no matter what age. Okay, I'm not talking about,
Right, right.
when we do neuro agility, we already start 10 plus. We do it with kids so that they are able to understand,
Wow.
wow, I can, how do I learn? How can I feel calm before my exam? What do I need to know? What strategies can
Yeah.
I be in control of? And that's amazing. And students do it because they are like, wow, I just want to know what are my intelligence preferences so that I can better direct what I am interested in into a career that I would like to do ongoing. That's amazing. And imagine if you are a manager and you have to give feedback. Everybody says, I listen. I love it when people say, listen, listen. It's just lovely. But the question is, how do you listen? And do you listen? Because actually, what the left ear listens to is not what the right ear listens to. And we can see that with neuroagility because we can see
Wow.
that this ear is obviously controlled by the left brain hemisphere. So it has the characteristics and it listens to what is said, the facts, the information.
Uh-huh.
Whereas that ear is controlled by the right brain
Right.
hemisphere. It listens out for how things are said.
Ah.
Imagine the power of this information if you are a manager and you notice that you get triggered every time you give a feedback, you're stressed, you're triggered. Sure, because you are listening to how
Mm-hmm.
they are said, and then you're not really knowing that you don't listen to what is said. What difference does it make when you realize, okay, now I know this, I can change it. I can know this is not a personal thing. And you listen to how things are said, because that's how you're naturally wired, plus what is said. It makes all the difference in your communication.
Wow, that was profound. That was profound. You have shared so many insights already, and we're just starting. And one of the things that I wanted to share in today's episode is and that drew me to you and having you on this podcast is really a favorite quote of mine, right? So I'm in the area of operational resilience, performance, and productivity. They're all very dear to my heart. And agility, flexibility, adaptability are all things that affect these things greatly. And one of my favorite quotes was coined in the 1950s, actually. And it says that productivity is a state of mind,
Mm.
right? It's above all a state of mind. It's an attitude that seeks the continuous improvement of what exists. It is a conviction that one can do better today than yesterday and that tomorrow will be better than today. Furthermore, it requires constant efforts to adapt economic activities to ever-changing conditions and the application of new theories and methods. It is the firm belief in humanity.
Oh, I love that. And
I tell you.
humanity, isn't it?
Humanity.
And
So,
humanity, yeah, humanity, brain. I love
brain,
that.
exactly. And so it all boils down to us as individuals, us as, and treating each other as human beings as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, for those listening in, Omozua, can you break down a little more this whole link between what's happening now, productivity, mental health, and our brain function?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Somebody said to me once, performance or productivity is made, it's not born. And that's why I love this idea of neuro agile. We all talk about agile organizations, agile teams, and there's a process. And I believe that these are people involved in all of that, and these people should also be agile. And when it comes to our well-being, when it comes to life satisfaction, job satisfaction, your ability to communicate well with others, it requires a safe brain. A
Mm.
safe brain. I believe strongly that today the most detrimental thing an organization, a business, a person can have is brains that do not feel safe.
Mm.
Because when you don't feel safe, survival comes first. The brain does three main things. I always like to I put it like that. When Karen Van Hout, my business partner, and I, when we do these neuro agility workshops and trainings in companies and groups, we always say the brain does three things. So what is that? It looks at something and thinks, can I eat you? Like I said, it's survival by all means possible. Can I eat you? That means I will survive. Great. If the answer is yes. Can I reproduce with you? Great, because that means I will survive, right? Also, do you give me pleasure in any form? Do I don't want you to cost me energy. Great. Now, if you don't fall, it's a very quick process. And if whatever you're doing, if it doesn't fall within that, then you are, I like to, if you think of this as the brain, in the middle of the brain, you've got the amygdala. I like to call it the inner mind chihuahua. It's got one job: threat, danger, threat, danger. It's like the smoke detector of the brain.
Right.
And so, in everything you're doing, that's what it's making sure I keep you alive and make you aware of threat and danger. And so, what are the fears of the brain? The loss, the brain fears loss of health,
Mm.
loss of status, loss of love, belonging, and connection. So that's one category. I like to say love, belonging, and connection.
Mm-hmm.
Loss of safety and
Mm.
loss of finance.
Hmm.
So everything that happens, Tamar, you can put it in that thing. Change. What
Yeah.
does that mean for a person? Wow, what's happening? New manager? Oh, the company is merging. Some brains might go fantastic, but something might be threatened.
Yes.
A manager might call and say, I will be in the office at 2 p.m. And he gives no further information, Tamar. Some brains might go, the manager is just coming in. I'll see what he says when he comes. Some others, another brain might go, wow,
Mm-hmm.
am I going to be fired? Did I do something wrong? Let me cross check my work. These are all things that cause stress, the release of cortisol. And if a brain feels like, oh, there's a promotion, the manager is only talking to those two people. What does that mean? It's loss of status. If I don't get that job, he's not talking to me. So my brain is already in that state of loss of status. It means I become reactive.
Mm. Makes a lot of sense. And
The fear circuits go on, right?
yes, yes, because
Fear,
when you
fight,
mentioned those things that would,
losses.
yes, that would trigger the stress
Yes,
in a person, all of
yes,
that happened in the last 20 months or so. Every single
everything
one, all at the same time.
all at
And
the same time.
so that's why we're seeing, you know, companies and individuals challenged with that sense of overwhelm, stress,
Well,
uncertainty, burnout, and the emotion of the year, languishing, So, Omazoa, how does understanding of all of these brain function now helps us to deal with some of these issues? How can we, rewire that thinking since it's now
it
something that
takes
you have to
it
live with?
takes yeah, it takes I would say it's not it's you can't skip the step of just understanding, right? Like just like what I did earlier on, you've got the brain and just divide it into three parts. Okay, so you've got the upper part, you've got the middle part, you've got the reactive part. Done. And where are you? We need to take note of that. You can't change what you do not identify. You can't change what you don't become aware of. So our brain is our friend. It's not against us. It's just like I like to say, you need to be the CEO of your brain. And when you're stressed, you can either do things that will even increase your stress, or you can do things that will give you the calm so that you enter that state of what feels like the ability to navigate a situation. That you have to learn. I was talking to a 12-year-old that I am coaching, and it's so interesting. She came back last week and she said, I do not feel good. I did poorly on an exam, actually a test.
Yes.
And she was so stressed about it. And I said, well, I see. Did you have expectations? Oh, yes, I did. So what were I wanted to have a top grade and I got a C instead of an A. And I said, well, how does that feel? She said, oh, absolutely. I feel like a loser right now because I studied and I had expectations. So I told her about expectations. So what do you feel you lost? She said, yeah, my friends were better. Now I feel like I'm a loser, right? Loss of status
Yes.
and hence loss of safety
Yeah.
and loss of connection because she doesn't belong
Right.
to those who did better. It is a reality. The brain, however, doesn't distinguish between real or unreal or your perceived danger. That's why we have to understand that our well-being will come when we understand our brain, when we understand that we have got like the engine of a powerful sports car which we maintain. We need to maintain it. We need to know how to optimize it. We need to know how to maintain it. We need to know how to feed it. We need to know how to give it the rest that it needs. It's easy to tell someone, let go. Let go, and the brain with the amygdala, it doesn't like loss. Let go means loss. Just let it go. Let it go of my status? Hell, no.
No.
Let it go of my, no. And it triggers everything. So this well-being It starts with brain awareness. It starts with becoming a bit more intentional and attentional and not just going through life without ever stopping to think what runs, what drives my behavior. Why do I talk to somebody like this? Why do I shred the CV of somebody that has sent me a document to pass on because there's a position,
Right.
only to notice that I, you know, I look at the CV and think, oh, this person's going to take my job.
Mm-hmm.
Loss of safety, loss
Mm-hmm.
of status, loss of finance. It is very much involved. Why did I sign up with that person and not that person? Do I feel safe in sales? Do I feel safe when this person talks to me? I didn't, I didn't feel, people would describe it as I didn't feel good. I just didn't feel we
Yeah,
connected.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What does that mean? If you don't connect, if you don't have the sense of connection, it means that the brain is simply not releasing. It's not releasing oxytocin. Oxytocin is the trust
Um,
neurotransmitter.
good.
And
Right.
if I'm talking to you and I just feel like,
Is that bonding? Uh,
exactly.
yes,
Yes, it's why
mothers have
moms
it at
bond with
birth,
their children.
children, right?
Exactly. But
Mhm.
also it helps us to become aware of how am I communicating with the people I want to motivate? How am I communicating with the people I lead? If what you're saying triggers one of the losses where they feel like I don't trust this manager, yeah, you can see
Yeah.
how productivity and peak performance and then well-being, they go all down the drain
Uh,
gradually.
so we're seeing the connections coming out. And I liked what you said that it all begins with that awareness, it gives you that gauge. And one of the things that, we often say in the improvement space is, you can't improve what you can't measure. So this awareness kind of give you a gauge. And when you say, okay, where I am relative to that, then you can look and see what the gaps are and how to close those gaps. But it really
Yes.
starts with saying, okay, this is where I am in this space, and this is where I need to be, and how do I get there? And, lovely. And I like how you're bringing in all of that connection piece because that is so important, especially now, even in a
Especially
virtual
now.
space, a
Yeah,
hybrid
and
space.
like you said, especially now, people need to understand that they are also the directors of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, you can't wait for an instance to be the only one impacting you or making something
Right.
happen in your life. What is the one thing we can control? What is the one thing that we all have? I love the brain because it's the most inclusive thing we have. It's not a girl, it's not a boy, it doesn't have any skin color.
Mm-hmm.
It's so include.
True.
You know, when we talk of inclusion and diversity, I mean,
Yes.
how that's the best way to go because it takes away all that personal out of the discussion and really makes it tangible and say like if you embrace the uniqueness, if you understand, that's why I love the neuroagility profile, because with the insights that you get, if you can embrace what is unique about you as a person. When I was a teenager, I used to feel so stupid, so dumb. I
Really.
wouldn't speak up. Everybody around me was good in mathematics and all these science subjects and calculating, and I just did not feel it and I did
Mm.
not understand it. I liked things like, the acting club and the boosting club, stuff like that. I love that, and I wish that when I was younger I had known about this. You see, now that I know, Omo, there is nothing wrong with you, because the question was then I thought I was not smart. The neuroagility profile and the insights you get, it doesn't ask the question, are you smart? It's more about how
All
are
right.
you smart?
Where is your
What's your
strength?
natural blueprint?
Mm.
And doesn't that make it so possible to embrace the uniqueness
Of-
that is in everybody
Yeah.
just the way they are? Because if I can embrace me and I'm just like, I'm not stupid after all, mathematics, that skill, that intelligence is just not my preference.
Yes.
My
Fabulous.
one of my top preferences is the intrapersonal intelligence and the interpersonal intelligence. And isn't it amazing that that's what I do in my career, and I thrive using something that is unique to me? Isn't it wonderful to have something that can show you? That's why we use it with students,
I think
so
that's
that they
so
can already
powerful.
see it's
I think
powerful.
I think it's powerful, and for them to have that awareness and knowledge very early in life,
Yes,
it will just make them a much more better human being in the long run. And I am
100%.
seeing, and then I'm seeing how leaders can now use this,
Yes,
where they can now, with their teams, not force them into a particular mold, but to look and see what their strengths are and to
yes,
maximize and utilize those strengths, either
yes.
entrepreneurially in the organization or otherwise, so that they feel more connected. They feel like they're thriving. They're utilizing that, all
The
of that,
whole
the
brain
whole brain.
experience.
Right.
The whole brain experience. So when I realized that, well, you're not good at that, but instead of seeing it as this weakness, which was how I saw myself when I was a teenager, just because everybody else was so smart around me and I didn't understand that you, Omo, you are unique in the way that you are. Now I realize that I can enhance myself. Instead of seeing it as a weakness, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, well, no, my blueprint is that I've got that. That's where it's natural to me.
Right.
And the
Right.
others are where the room for enhancement, optimization. That is so beautiful because that's where you get resilient, more courageous, confident, and more stable within yourself. Your self-awareness comes. It's not just saying go within. Just no.
No.
It's
it's not.
tangible. It's
It's not woo woo.
tangible.
It's not something.
It's not woo-woo. No. It's science backed. And when I do these debriefings with people, I just love the moment that they go, wow, wow. In
Light
what
bulb
world did I
moment.
not know that? Wow, I have these communication issues with people because the insights that you get from the profile is also that everybody has a figurative language and an order in which you communicate. So
Mhm.
some people are analysts, so that's the left
That's
hemisphere,
right.
that
Mm-hmm.
point. Some
Mm-hmm.
people are strategists,
Mm-hmm.
some people are counselors, and others are doers. Now you imagine if a doer is talking to a strategist,
Yes.
and the strategist is like, yeah, you just do it.
Let's do it. Yes.
I've given you the picture, but you can see where also there is a clash, a possible breakdown in communication
but there's a
because
but there's a
you
collaborative aspect, because
exactly.
that we need to focus on more on,
Yes.
and not the differences.
Not the differences that you embrace, and you also say, what is my role in this moment of communication, this exchange? I am talking to a strategist, so I can't talk to a strategist the way I would to a doer. I'm a doer, so
Right.
the doer gets me. We speak the same figurative language. We
Mm-hmm.
focus on the same things. But an analyst, also left brain hemisphere, however, an analyst would tell a doer, slow down a minute. I need to double check that, okay? A doer wants to do it because they see the picture, they can see it happening. Analysts will say, hey, I need to check that. The strategy is like, come on, we're going to have a big party, something of that kind,
Let's
right?
go.
If you
Let's
understand what I
go.
mean. And the counselor will say, let's focus on the people also. That's called whole brain. See that as a human being, for yourself as an individual, what that means when you are using and you are enhancing more. So, because I know I'm not a mathematical whiz kid, but now I can develop that area of my brain, and this contributes to being more neuroagile because none of us are
Oh,
born neuroagile. It is actually a skill that you need to, just like you it's a muscle, it's like you drive a car or you ride
Yes,
a
yes,
bicycle. It's a skill you need to learn. It doesn't just come to you. And it's good that we can learn it, because the brain has the properties of like neuroplasticity.
yes. And we
We
have to
can
do so
hold
over
it.
time. So it won't just snap and happen. There needs to be some
Yeah,
continuous focus and effort that is required.
yeah,
Thank you for that, Omo.
yeah.
And, one of the things that we're seeing, especially now in this whole mode of rapid change at a greater magnitude that we have ever seen it before, some of the requirements of people in the workplace are that they are well skilled and confident in navigating these crisis situations. They're able to deal with change. They are quick to learn new things, and that they're agile, neuro agile, and continue to perform at high levels and get results. Now, oh, as leaders, because I know leaders would be listening in, either COOs or CEOs or others, leaders in their own space. How might we create that environment that allows for that, um, you know, creating that emotional and mental stability and clarity that is needed by persons in the workplace today?
That's a big question.
Break it down.
I think that the good news, I think that the good news here is that the skills it takes to improve one's mental game. And I say mental game, we know you've got the inner chatter, you've got the down moments, you've got the highs and the
Right,
mids,
right.
you've got all that, knowing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What are you capable of doing, and how are you able to enroll people
Mm-hmm.
in a mission and in your vision? How do you enroll them and make them feel like they count in the matter, that
Ah,
you're not alone, that you are in a place where we relate with each other and where we collaborate with each other and we respect each other for
mm,
the humans that we each are, not trying to make the other person like you or you like the other. Leadership, if you're a leader, self awareness. Leading starts with what you know about yourself, what you can allow, what you can, you know, build in yourself. Because if you don't see it in yourself, it's going to be very difficult to get that done in others.
lovely. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, this is a trend that I've been seeing over the last couple of episodes that we have recorded, that it's really starts with the man in the mirror. We
Oh,
have
I
to
love
be to start looking at ourselves and see and be the change that we want to see in others, and demonstrate that, be that light that illuminates the place so that they will absorb some of it and then start their own journeys and make the changes too in their own lives. You know, very, 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 beautiful thoughts so far.
Yeah,
You know,
Tama, I love that you just said mirror, because yes, there's the man in the mirror. I would like to add to that. The
sure.
great thing about a mirror is that you can move it around.
Yes.
You don't, how, come on,
Yeah.
when you buy a new dress,
Oh
what do?
yeah.
You don't just stand and look
No,
at
no,
it from
no.
the front.
You just
You
need to
look at it
see
from a different
exactly.
angle, right?
That's right. And don't,
Yes,
you're taking
I think
a
that
selfie, you have to go to the area where you get the best lighting.
exactly. Yeah, you look the light. How is it? Absolutely. I think that that is what I would say is that flexibility that you allow yourself. That also, if you're leading someone, that you also need to allow that flexibility. Because if somebody is stuck,
Yeah.
there is just no flow in
No flow.
that.
No flow.
There's no flow. It must be done that way. Of course, sure, there should be the core outcome that we want, but I think that there should be flexibility in allowing people to use their own strengths to get to that
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
I am somebody who loves, when people come to my place, they're like, God, you've got post-its everywhere. I'm a post-it person, but I know when I'm looking for something, I find it. It might take me a little bit to. That's just how I focus. Some people love Excel sheets. They send me Excel. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do with that right now. I'm looking at it and I don't know what I should be. either tell me or highlight what I should be seeing the moment I click on it. That's just how I am, because it looks
Yes.
like math and I don't see it. It makes me feel overwhelmed. But you see, we can communicate. Now my VA knows, like, okay, oh no, don't worry. I'm just telling you this. Know that I'm doing something. I'll let you know when I'm done. Wonderful. We
Understand each other
you
and
understand, you can complement each other, and I think that that is like empower people so that they can change the perspective, the position in which their mirror
I
shows
love
them
that.
what they need to see. Isn't that what we say? We
Wow.
talk about failure, but failure, I think, let's see it more like, I look at something, it's not right, so I'm just gonna change the position. Or for those of us that like food, I like food. Sometimes you cook a soup and you
Mm-hmm.
taste it and you just know something is missing.
Missing,
And what
right?
do? I say that might be a mini failure. Okay, so we're just gonna add some more ingredients,
Yes.
or we're gonna call somebody to say, "Hey, mom or aunt, I'm cooking this thing, and I don't know what I've put this. That's the collaboration and the trust that you have, that you can ask for support and you can ask for help. That is a safe brain,
Yeah.
because you see, when you're managing people and the people you're managing do not feel safe, they will not ask for help. And
Mm-hmm.
then we talk about mental well-being. That's where it goes down the drain,
Mm-hmm.
among other reasons that people feel overwhelmed. Okay.
Wow.
And
Wow. So yeah, we're seeing here the connection with why so many are resigning and leaving jobs, because they don't feel safe. So understanding how the brain works and giving persons that flexibility to change the angle at which they view themselves is of utmost importance, especially now, if we
yes,
want to retain and, help the talent that we have
that you
to
have.
grow and thrive and to allow our
Yes,
businesses to thrive and for us to thrive too as
exactly.
leaders within our space. This is so profound. Thank you for sharing that. This is turning out to be a masterclass than a podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, there's a talent on war. There's a war on talent, I mean.
Yes.
So what people need today, people are discovering, and people are being hired today for a job that actually lies in the future.
Hmm. Absolutely.
That's You have to think about that.
Yes. Yes. That's
For
a
a job that does not even yet exist. So
mhm.
people need to be ready. People need to be able to bounce back. But that's a
Absolutely.
skill. It's a skill. It's not something that just, if you are in fight mode, flight mode, freeze mode, or faint mode, you're reactive. Nothing is happening other than you trying to survive rather than thrive. When you are in the PFC, when everything is in control, when you know, I can be with uncertainty, it
Right.
will not disappear. I
So
was talking to an IT specialist and he said, I said, well, technology is changing. He said, I like it when you non-IT people say it's changing. He said, no, no. He said, we were using internet 15 years ago. Nothing has changed. We still use internet now. It has been enhanced, optimized,
yes.
new things.
Yes.
And I think that is how I go about training. And I think leaders should understand that
Yes.
our brains, you can have a habit, but you can change it.
Yes.
And you can be with the fact that now there is more information, sure, more emails, more things you need to deal with,
Hmm.
things are uncertain, it's volatile, it's complex. How can we be with what is as it is? It's not bad,
Hmm.
it's not good, it
Hmm.
is as it is. And somebody that I really admire say, thinking makes it so.
Mm.
Thinking
So, uh, yeah, All right, you got me thinking. You got me thinking. All right, so I'm gonna put a scenario here now. What about a person that's in a toxic workplace? How do they use, their brains or the neuro agility to conquer or get through that space? Doesn't mean that that person has to leave, or how can they? What can they do?
So if you identify something as a toxic workplace,
Mhm.
you can be constantly complaining about it,
Right.
swimming in it, cooking in it, but that doesn't change anything. So, what can I change when we talk about emotional intelligence? And the first thing is self awareness. How am I? How do I operate? How do I cope? How do I interpret? How do I see myself within this? What is my role? What is the part that I can control? I don't have to go home with this toxic person. I just need to work with this toxic person. If I now start saying I want to force that toxic person who is in a pain, I don't know why the person is toxic, I want to
Mhm.
force the person to be like me, to think like me. Obviously, that is not going to be a good soup if it were a dish you
No,
were cooking.
no.
So it is not about the person who you perceive or who maybe really is toxic.
Yeah.
It is more, how do I operate under the circumstances? It is as it is. And if it comes worse to the worst case scenario, my grandmother always said, Omozua, in life, you need to make choices. Sometimes you think you want something, but it's not what you truly want,
Hmm.
and you need to make a choice. You've got mom is going to the market. You've got dad goes to buy the newspaper. Next to the newspaper stand, you have got the chocolate place. When you go with your mom to the market, you get mangoes. You go with dad, you get chocolate. You cannot go with them at the same time because they are leaving the house at the same time. That's how she taught me choice. Choice.
Hmm.
Because what does thriving mean? What does being agile mean? It means being able to adapt to a situation, but also to change it. And but also when we talk of resilience, it means to make the decision that needs to be made because it needs to be made.
Yeah,
And to
and made
say,
quickly. And
and
to
make
make
it
it
quickly, and
quickly.
also decide I may not be able to leave my job immediately, but I have come to this conclusion that I just can't work here. Maybe there is no HR supportive
Right.
person who can help me, who can really change this person. So I need to make a decision because it's about my well-being. Our well-being is not the responsibility of, so your mental state is not the responsibility of somebody else. I cannot be mindful for you.
Yes.
You need to know, like, the state that this situation puts me in. Not only is it bad for my health, but what about the ripple effect? What about the consequences of the state that I am in when I go home to my family? And then you
Absolutely.
have to make a decision. It's a
Oh,
consequence. It is as it is.
how are we going to react to that situation? I mean, that is
Exactly. Exactly. Because I cannot change a toxic person.
no.
What can I possibly do? Maybe if it's possible to talk to the person, but I think when we start using the word toxic, it is a label. And
Mm,
then maybe you have courage and say, look, I'm just going to have a talk with this person. Maybe there's somebody we can call a third party and we can have just an open discussion if it is possible. But there is always, think of the mirror. There's always something you can do. I find trying to change the other, that is like, wow. Yeah, that's like telling me to do algebra. No. But it's about me. How can I change so that when in the moments that I have to communicate with this person who, if I have put the stamp on him, toxic, because when you put the
Mhm.
stamp on something as bad, that is also how you treat the thing, isn't
Right,
it?
right. True, true. That's what we're going
And
to
we've got
reflect. That's what we're going
mirror
to get.
neurons.
Yes,
And
exactly.
we have got mirror neurons. That means you may be doing something and the other person somehow will imitate, will be influenced by what he or she is observing. Now, if you already go in and say, hey, da 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 da, in such a way, like I said, the loss of the brain, even that toxic person has a brain, and that person's brain is protecting him, even
Yes.
if it is not in a resourceful manner.
Yes, there,
So,
there are
so it,
studies. There are studies that show if you go in with a bad day, that is absorbed by the persons around you. But if you go in happy, despite what's happening, even if your eyeballs are up to, with alligators, you go in with a smile and you're like, "Hello, good morning, everybody." There's a 50% chance that that person is going to absorb that
absolutely, I
and
love that.
become happy as well. And you might just change the trajectory of that whole day just by how you walk into the office, for example, and the kind of greeting that you give to people, because they feel and energy is real. And
Yes.
energy cannot be created or destroyed. You transfer
No.
in that energy.
Yes, yes, yes. And
Right?
and then there are the final consequences where everyone reaches. It's like when you're in a toxic relationship, there comes a point where you have to stand on your feet and just say, I don't know what lies ahead, but that's the thing of being with uncertainty. When I wake up in the morning, I say, beautiful day, another day to just be agile, to observe, to be aware, and to understand that no matter what is happening, I can coexist with it.
My,
Fear, I
my God.
coexist with you. Uncertainty, I coexist with you because it is as it is. What can I change about that? And I feel spending energy on trying to change something that you cannot change, I think that's a loss of mental energy. And we need to be very, very, very careful with how we treat our brain.
That's just like what you call a mic drop moment. And you just show the image for those who are listening in of that brain. And you spoke a lot about the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, which is that high performing sports car of our brain. And it can do
Yes.
magical things, but is heavy on the use of limited mental energy that's available. And like a sports car, it requires, focus, care for it to serve us well.
Yeah.
What are some tips? Can you share, some tips in which we can use to take care of this sports car of for ourselves and for our teams? You just mentioned something that you do every morning, and what you
Yes.
say.
Yes.
And I think
I
that's just
I meditate. So mindfulness. So mindfulness is not only meditation, but the idea is of keeping that emotional brain, the limbic system, ready and prepared. My PFC needs the information from that area because that's where your memory is stored. Now, if it is on fire, I won't be able to have access to that supermarket of resources.
mm,
Yeah. I won't have access to it because it's in survival mode. So I like to really prime myself for the day with whatever. Some people I exercise because that really makes you able to be open and ready to learn.
mhm.
I also do a lot of brain exercise. And I know some people say, oh, yeah, I read, but reading is not necessarily a brain exercise. I mean, the kind of exercise that will help you to be able to activate the right and the left brain hemisphere simultaneously. So we're going to do an exercise. I'm going to take my glasses off and you're going
Oh,
to do it with me.
all
Okay.
right.
I like,
Yes.
okay.
Let's get
So
ready.
it's like you clap, okay?
Mhm.
One
Yeah.
hand goes to the nose, and then the other goes to the ear.
Mhm.
Okay, and now clap, and then we swap. Good. Clap. Don't kid yourself. Okay? So without turning your head, to be able to just do that. So one, okay, for example, because the idea is that we want to be whole brained beings, and
Right.
we don't want to be just left or right. I mean, I
Right.
love it when people say, oh, I'm left. No, no, no. If you were only left, you would not be able to walk, because the left brain hemisphere controls the
Ah.
right side and the other way around. Yeah. So, or if you're able to do this, like you point to 5 fingers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then with the other hand, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you see that even I make mistakes, and I do this every morning. I do this every evening to make sure that I am making sure that I'm activating and optimizing my brain, making it ready to prepare, so that like if you want to be calm, if you just want to think, if you want to be creative, you need to be calm. You can't be on. You can't be in your PFC. You have to be able to switch that off and just enter a state. So the brain awareness, brain
Wow.
exercise, feeding your brain correctly, hydrating. Every
Mhm.
my business partner, and everybody who knows me, who's ever come, they're like, what is that? And I'm like, I drink
And tea. So I have
I
water
drink
and tea.
tea. I drink one of these each day, because the brain
Wow.
needs water, it needs glucose. I try to eat healthy um, most of the time. I exercise, and also like the attitude. You've got drivers for the brain, common sense drivers. People say, oh, drivers. I'm like, well, you've got the brain, but just like a car, you need to maintain it with the right with the right uh, fuel. You can't just
Good.
put the
Yes.
wrong thing in it. You've got to
Right.
optimize
Number.
your brain. So,
Yep.
and what does that mean? It means that what are the drivers of the brain? The drivers are those things that help you to optimize your greatest asset. People will say, oh, but what is that? It's absolute common sense. Absolute common sense, because you have got sleep,
Yes. Yeah.
coping with stress,
Mm-hmm.
movement,
Mm-hmm.
food.
Mm-hmm.
Which one am I missing now? I'm thinking. So you've got so brain fitness, like
Mm-hmm.
making sure that you are whole brained.
Right.
So if your neural profile assessment says you are receptive, you want to be receptive and expressive. You want to be left and right. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be, as much as possible, strategist, analyst, counselor, right? As much as
Nice.
possible. Activating, that is your potential. Potential is nothing if it is not polished, nurtured, understood, harnessed somehow.
Yes. Yeah.
So, brain fitness, stress coping mechanisms, sleep, movement, brain food, brain ergonomics, mental skills, and attitude.
Wow. Yep.
Is your attitude, does it make your brain release cortisol? Cortisol, cortisol. That is, that means stress, you feel ill, no well-being, no satisfaction, everything starts going wrong. But if your brain is releasing with the behavior dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and all those goodies, that is well being. Because we said heart,
Yes.
mind, body, and soul connection.
Yes. Yes.
Your
Yes.
brain not feeling well, it will impact your body.
Right. Right. And well-being goes beyond just health and happiness. It means that we are living to our fullest potential. We have, our community, our careers, social aspects, the physical aspects, as well as the financial aspects. So it's putting all of that together
Yes,
That's
your
just
focus. Yes, your
right.
focus, your ability to see opportunities. If your brain is drained and bathed in cortisol, you are going to switch on, your fear circuits are switched on, and you are either fighting, fleeing, freezing, or fainting. That means you're really surviving. It's like a dinosaur is running
Yeah.
after you. I always say, be the CEO of your brain and know when that thing that you think is a dinosaur, sometimes, more often than not, it is just a lizard.
Of it. Why you're that was beautifully said. Omo. I won't forget that one.
Yeah.
So just by reframing how we think about things, right?
Yes.
That big problem, that really nasty person could
Yes.
be just a baby needed attention.
Switch
Or
off
that,
the amygdala. Notice when your amygdala, I call mine the inner mind chihuahua, and mine is called Diana.
all
And
right.
when Diana is woof, 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 I go, thank you very much for warning me of the danger ahead that you perceive. I am the CEO here. Let me assess this. Thanks for warning me, but now go to your basket. You've got your bone and your dog cookie. Sit. Let me be in
I'll take
control.
it from here.
I'll take it from here. That is what I mean by be the CEO of your brain. To do that, you need to start taking note of what is happening
So
because
this
you
is
can. It's very easy.
right. So this is a more proactive approach and not the
Yes.
reactive or the victim approach to how
Yes.
we deal with changes.
Yes.
So, oh my gosh, this is just so phenomenal. I'm loving this discussion, but we have to wrap up. I know it's way past your bedtime.
I could
So
go on talking about the brain for
I
hours.
know it's very intriguing, very lively discussion. I really enjoy it. But before I go, I have, two questions that I wrap up with quickly. One, what do you see as the top mistake that organizations are making as it relates to tapping in our leading, you know, with the brain in mind?
I would say focusing only on the old or only on the traditional ways or sometimes outdated ways of managing people, focusing only on those technical things that we can enhance and not forgetting that you need to also deal with your people. I would say see the people as brains, and brains have an agenda.
Yeah, yeah,
So in your management, make sure that part of that has the brain
agenda.
management agenda on it. That is very, very important because the people challenges, the people, I wouldn't even say some, it's detrimental if any organization thinks, that's going to be last on our list.
Hmm.
It's today about a competitive, having a competitive edge, isn't it?
Yes.
Uh,
Oh,
remaining on track
yes.
and taking as many people with you.
Mm,
Also, like really enhancing their uniqueness and their talents. And as much as we individuals have a role in it, definitely a responsibility, but I think organizations need to understand that the days where people just robotically did things
yeah.
is over because we are in the millennium of the mind.
Ah.
That cannot be stopped, unfortunately. Hence, just as we are updating our technologies, we need to make sure that we are updating the way we are relating to humans.
Brilliant. I mic drop. Mic drop. That was phenomenal. Beautifully said. Well said. It goes back to people being at the core of what we do and remembering that and humanizing how we operate in our business and our organizations. So, Omozua, my final question. right? You have worked with different minds the world over. One question I ask all my guests, I believe that there is power in questions. In your career and operating in this mind space, what's one question that you frequently use when you're working with teams, with individuals, to get the best outcomes?
I have one which I learned from a very, very, very dear friend of mine, and it was about the IBDs and the IFAs.
IBDs and
Yes,
IFAs, like that.
IBDs and the IFAs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very much related to productivity, performance, well being, but also self awareness and awareness, being attentional and intentional. So, when it comes to the IFAs and you want to focus on productivity, effective communication, great relationships, what are the illegal fusion activities
Ooh.
that you can do away with it? That's IFA, illegal fusion activities.
Wow.
You need to separate yourself,
Yeah.
that self that needs to focus to on peak performance, separate it from all that. And the IBDs, be very attentional about the input or what is going out. Like you said, we've got limited mental energy when it comes to really focusing on what we need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your illegal brain battery drainers?
Mm.
The IBDs, illegal brain battery drainers. Why do I ask these two questions? It's because people go, I'm overwhelmed. Again, when you're overwhelmed, it means there's something you need to notice. There's something you need to become aware of. It's heavy. It's like bearing some, carrying load on your shoulders. So if you want to get rid of overwhelm means something. It's an emotion that you feel. So what do you need to get rid of so that you do not feel overwhelmed? And I would say, IFAs, IBDs, and your environment, the last one, ECVs, external crazy vibes.
I've never heard of that one.
That kind of conversation happening about you because of what you watch, because of what you listen to, because of the people you dangle around with. Those are ECVs. And if you are talking about being you, doing you, living you, and performing and having well-being on the journey and sending out that ripple effect, I would say be careful of your IFAs, IBDs, and the ECVs.
Cuts down all the noise, get us into our flow and mastery, which are two of my favorite words, right? Because only when you're in your flow, then you will get to that mastery stage. Omozua, this has been a fascinating, energizing discussion. And that delivery, if you're listening to it, you can hear it, how dynamic she is and expressive. And if you see her, I'll put the video on YouTube as well. You will see her expressions. I could just see her on a stage, doing a drama piece. She
and how giving me ideas.
And she gets into character, seeing the right brain coming out in all its glory. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your insights with us today. It has been so many key takeaways, especially in these times of, uncertainty. We are seeing that raising our brain awareness and implementing the strategies that you have shared can keep ourselves and those around us, in that high performance state for as long as possible. And this should be on the agenda of any organization that wants that competitive advantage. But this is something that we need to embrace as human beings, as individuals. So everyone listening in, I would encourage you to, embrace some of these concepts, even one or two, and a lot were shared. I'll be doing those exercises with my hands.
Yes, yes, like that.
Yes, I will be doing those exercises and building and utilizing my whole brain. It's a beautiful thing to have functioning, having all the engines firing all at once. So, thanks so much. And to
Thank you very
you,
much for having me.
yes, and to you, our wonderful guests, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you got a lot of value from this discussion. And if you want to hear more and speak to Omozua further, you can check her out on LinkedIn or visit her website, which is www.omozua.com, coaching services. And I'll put it in the descriptions in the description below, so you can have that information. Or you can reach out to me at tamara@tamaranelson.com or on LinkedIn at tamara-nelson. And if you want to be a guest or you want to share any feedback or suggestions you may have, I'd love to hear from you. Also, please share and subscribe if you found this valuable, and give us a thumbs up or leave a rating on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to join us next time for another nugget-filled episode. And as I always say here in Jamaica, until next time, walk good. Thank you.
Thank you.